So now we have some special guests in studio. Mike Chancey, 19 years head coach at Meigs, and Justin Roush, very first player of the year for our program, graduate of Meigs in 2000, top 5 record holder in rushing yards in the state, 2-time TVC player of the year. Very, very good to have you guys with us. Thank you very much for being here. I wanted to ask you about the Player of the Year award. Obviously an honor. I think everybody that would have earned it would say that. What kind of pride did it give to you, to your family, to your community to earn that very first Gridiron Glory Player of the Year award?
Well, I think when we were in high school and Gridiron Glory first came out, there was nothing that was really on TV where you could see yourself as a player. It was always run and get the Sunday morning paper. So it was pretty amazing also because when I won that, people voted for me. You know, it wasn't just like coaches, it was your community. So it gave me a lot of pride that people watched me, people knew who I was and appreciated what I was doing as an athlete. So it boosted my confidence as a player, which carried on into college, and I mean, it was fantastic. So,
yeah, I should have mentioned you were a former Ohio Bobcat as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff coming from us here. Do you think by any means that kind of altered your status in the community in a better way?
Well, I think people hear of you. So what Gridiron Glory did is it gave people the opportunity on Friday night to see who Justin Roush was, or to see what Meigs football was doing on their accomplishments. So it gave people a sense of, now I can see who this person is, and now I can root for them more because I see who they are, and I see a play from a Friday night film that one of the Gridiron Glory people filmed. So, you know, it just gave a lot of gratification to me, but also for people to finally be able to see who we were. You know, instead of saying it's Meigs Marauders, they're maroon and gold, now they can see it, and it makes it more personable.
We still have some of those clips also, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, I think the one I hear was, going to go down to Meigs, a stadium down by the river.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So.
Good stuff,
yeah.
Good stuff. And for you as well, you've been involved in Meigs specifically for a really long time, football for even longer. Mm-hmm. What about the game of football established the fact that you wanted a career in it?
Well, I grew up first. My father was a college and then high school football coach. So I played high school football for my father. And then, so I've been a manager. I've been, you know, a junior high player, then a high school player. I was fortunate enough to go on and play college football. And, you know, with my father's profession and being around it all my life, of course, you kind of naturally, I fell in love with the game. And, you know, it's such a special game. And I played other sports, but football, obviously because of the camaraderie and the togetherness that goes with football, it really attracted me to it. So I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and with that I thought, you know, I would pursue coaching also. So I was fortunate enough to come back here to Ohio University and be a graduate assistant coach for 2 years. And then the Meigs job became available in the fall of '93, and went back home as a 25-year-old and jumped in with both feet, and you know, so I was very fortunate, you know, for that opportunity, and was glad I got to go back home, and you know, I thought about leaving a few times, but I'm glad that I didn't. Glad I stayed there, and you know, in my home community, which just made it that much more special.
Absolutely. I think that goes for a lot of the coaches sometimes around here are from the area, from, if not their own community, they're serving now, have lived around the area too. So
right. That's
really cool that you you know, got those opportunities and are still around in there as well.
Right.
I like to ask coaches this because I have my own answers as a former player.
Yeah.
What do you think kind of values that football provides to show young men life after football?
Wow, that's so much, you know. First things first, I mean, you learn how to work as a group. You learn how to work, you know, through problems together. You learn how to put the team's needs and wants in front of your own. You learn how to, you know, life's going to knock you down sometime. That's the reality, and football teaches you to get back up. And, you know, you can't feel sorry for yourself. The guy beside of you is counting on you, and you, and vice versa. So there's so many life lessons. The big thing is that togetherness that you get out of football. That's what kept me in it as long as it did, and that's what I miss the most about it now. You know, I was fortunate that I had a bunch of good kids that played football for us, and I was fortunate enough that I had a good group of coaches that stayed together. You know, I had consistency in the coaching staff for years, and those two things. That's why I miss it. You know, you remember the games and the wins and losses, but not nearly as much as you remember the relationships that you build. So, you know, it teaches us so many things just about, you know, the right way to deal with people and to treat people the way you want to be treated.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely learned, discipline, the value of hard work, attention to detail, all that good stuff.
Right.
I'm sure all my coaches
Right.
would say kind of the same
Yes.
things that you did.
Yes.
So I turn to you as well as a player and someone who'd been involved in football for a long time as well. What kind of values did you draw from the game?
Well, pretty much the same thing he just said, how to be a team player, how to put others before yourself, how to fight through pain, discomfort, how to do things that to you as a young person, especially when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, your coach is telling you to do something, and for you, you're like, what? Like, why are we going to do it that way? Or why take that step? And so it teaches you to take direction from somebody higher than you, which will be a boss in the future. Right. So for me, it taught me how to do that. But then you can't replace the locker room. Like I said, stats, wins and losses, you kind of forget about those, and you spend your whole life dreaming about breaking all these records. But when you're 20 years removed, you're like, what's the record? I'd rather go back and spend another moment, hearing him give a pep talk, or hearing your teammates clap for you, or, smack you on the back of the helmet for a great run, So, football just taught me how to be a man and made me who I am and the person I am, the father I am, and I love everything about it and miss it every day.
I'm sure your former coach would love to hear you say that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Music to his ears.
Well,
yeah.
I'm, like I said, very fortunate. He was a great football player, but even better person. And we had so many kids that went through that played there that it just was a good atmosphere. It was something that we all were proud to be, a part of. And guys like him made it easy, to go to work every day and made it special. So,
I think too, when you think about coaches or people that you look up to, all you really want to do is impress them. So as a football player, he said, he started teaching in '93. I was at Pomeroy Elementary School where he was. So when I got in trouble, who'd they send me to? The high school football coach. So as soon as I knew who Mike Chancey was, I spent the rest of my life trying to impress this man, knowing, when I was in junior high in 8th grade and he would come down for a Galplis football game, like I was making sure I could see him, and I wanted to impress him because I knew the next phase of my life was going to be dictated by this man. So, and in the summer times we'd go, hey, at your father's house, so football allows us to build relationships, but then after football season's over, those relationships continue to carry on and build a lot of hay and through a lot of hay bales for this man and his father. So,
other than you did a pretty good job impressing me. I'll tell you that for sure. I was saying earlier, Justin we had a good football player that was tailback in front of him, and we'd go to the first scrimmage we played in. He was a freshman, and he actually played JV in that first scrimmage and ran wild. So on Monday, I called him out, get ready to watch film, and I called him out in the gym, and I said, hey, we're thinking about moving your positions. We're thinking about moving you to fullback. And his attitude was, Coach, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll do whatever, whatever you think will help the team, I'll do it. And I said, do you understand why I want to do this? And he said, no, but I'll do it because you asked me to. And I said, well, you're going to play on Friday nights. You're not going to play on Mondays. And of course, he, the freshman there beamed up, and he did a great job for 4 years. Obviously, you don't have a career like that and end up fourth all time in the state of Ohio in career rushing yards without being a great football player. And he was fortunate enough to go through where we had a lot of other good football players with him also. So, but it was a lot of fun. Certainly a lot of fun.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it from the way you even talk about it today as well.
Oh, yeah.
So we're certainly glad to hear that. Glad to have
memories.
you guys back to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember walking into the gym after that scrimmage at Rock Hill, but I spent that whole 2 days because my older brother, Jason, was the center and starting linebacker. So all 2 days I'd go through practice and be like, why hasn't Coach Chancey given me a shot? Like, why am I with JV? Why am I with freshmen? Like, why isn't he giving me a shot? Then we'd do gassers, and I wanted to make sure I won. And I'd come to my brother because I didn't want any excuse why I couldn't play. And then you went to the JV, or we went to the Rock Hill for that first scrimmage in the varsity play, and I was just sitting there with my helmet on, just my legs shaking. Come on, aim. And it never was. So then when JV came, I was like, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to, a lot of times I think as young players and being part of the coaching scene now, so often kids sit back and whine and complain about why not. And then when their chance comes, you've got to seize that moment and that opportunity. And
you did. You did.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, but that changed the course of my football career and my life in general, because all I wanted to do was play football, and then he gave me a shot, and I fell in love with the game, and Worked all summer
It was
long.
very,
all
very
winter
good
long.
for my coaching IQ.
So that first started as well.
That's right.
It didn't need help, but it was a good time.
Yeah.
So we're talking a lot about your career. I had this question as well, and I want you to be honest. How do you think that your game from your style of play, that mentality from 1999 would translate to today's game of football?
I think it would translate the same. You know, like I had pretty good vision, and I wasn't like lightning fast, but I was probably faster than average. So, you know, my vision allowed me to get places that, you know, somebody who can't run with vision and see holes opening up and things like that. But then, you know, if we needed a first down, I wasn't going to run out of bounds, I can tell you that. So I had vision, I could make you miss, but then I would hit you. So I think every kid's got their style that works for them, and it's also about the system that you're in. And all Coach Chancey wanted from me was to get yards, get first downs, get touchdowns if we could. And so that's what it did.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out. And,
Yeah, very well.
yeah. I mean, speed kills. Tough, hard-nosed football players are hard to find, and when you find one, they're going to be successful as well. So what translates to today's game, honestly, hard work and dedication, and give it all you've got, you'll be successful.
Seems across generations.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
You know,
the key.
you can't replace hard work and hard-nosed football players. So.
No kidding. I think you'd agree with that as well.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, you know, he would have success in any generation that he played, and you know, was a tough kid, elusive, ran the ball with, you know, had great balance and had great determination, great work ethic, all those things. And like you said, there's so many things you can gauge in a football player, but you know, when you have that toughness inside of you, that is the game of football. When you're willing to you know, it's not easy to be a football player, and when you have that just some kids have it and some kids don't. It's just like size or strength. You know, it's also in varying degrees how tough they are. And when you're sore and tired in the fourth quarter and you're still going to, you know, come off the ball and try to beat the guy across from you, that heart and toughness certainly plays as one of the number one factors in a great football player. Obviously, you have to have some ability to go with it. But I've seen some great athletes that weren't great football players because they weren't as tough. And I've seen some kids who ended up being very good football players that were average athletic ability, but they were kids who were some of the toughest kids in the high school. And they would, when they put their helmet on, walked on the football field, if you're across from them, you better be ready to play football because they're going to get after it. And, you know, when you have that, you can be a good football player. You may not be as athletic, but if you have that heart and toughness, then, you know, it's what makes it special that, you know, when the pads went on, some kids would look great in shorts, and when the pads went on, there were some kids' stock that went up and some that went down. You know, when you have that toughness and that want to, it goes a long way to becoming a successful football player. And that's the same as it was in, you know, from the beginning to, and will always be that way. So.
I mean, never being satisfied with where you are as a player, because I think once you get comfortable, like, I'm good, my name's in the paper, you know, it says, you know, so-and-so did this today, then to be satisfied with that, I think would be damaging to what you're trying to do as an athlete.
Absolutely.
Because like you said, in front of me was Matt Williams, you know, and he was a school record. I was at the high school. I wasn't even in high school when he broke the record, the Meigs rushing record, and I was in the stands and I saw it. I watched him do it and I thought, I want to be that guy, you know. Then you come as a freshman and you see all these older guys with their helmets, you know, their face mask all beat up and chips out of it and gashes in their helmets, and you're like, that's a crazy guy, and I want to be like him, you know. So as an athlete, and you come and you watch all these film, I remember watching a film with Matt Williams, was a leading blocker for me, and I remember him stopping the film and saying, I want you guys to watch this. Watch this man right here not be mad or aggravated that he's not getting the ball. And he leads into the hole and blows this guy up and allows me to go for a touchdown. You know, so you see that and you're thinking, oh my gosh, am I doing that same thing for him? So then it makes you start watching yourself close and like, okay, I need to be a better blocker. You know, so I think as a young high school athlete, sometimes we can get complacent with where we are, but you can learn a lot by watching film and seeing, like, hey, what's this lineman doing? Why is our linebacker so tough? What's he doing, you know, in the running back and the blocking, you know? So for me personally, I said I was just never satisfied with where I was. You know, I always wanted to do better and be more aggressive and run farther and farther and farther every time. So.
And I'll say again, when you have those type of kids like that, it makes, you know, it not only makes it your job easy, but it makes it fun to go coach those type of kids. So.
For sure.
And we were fortunate; we had so many good kids like Justin, like Matt Williams. So many kids that did everything we asked them to do and did it to the best of their ability. And we won a lot of football games and we lost some, but we always just a great experience. Looking back, I wouldn't trade it for anything. So
good. That's awesome. Awesome answers. You've seen a lot of that kind of mentality throughout your career, but there was a time where at Meigs it kind of came to an end. How did you know? What kind of told you that it was time to hang it up, and then how hard was it to do so?
The last couple of years that I coached, I went back and forth, and it was, I thought about going back into college coaching, and I thought about going into administration, which I eventually did, and I was a little bit frustrated in that. I don't want to be negative at all, but we had some groups come through that was harder to get those kids in the weight room and do the things that that you needed to be successful. And it wasn't one thing. I think it was a combination of things, and really the big thing was I think me needing a change was the biggest thing. And looking back after I got out of coaching, it was almost like a divorce. I'd been married to Meigs football for so long and grown up with it and had such a love for it, and still do to this day. That it was that first year was hard, and after I was out of it for a couple of years, I realized, hey, I'm missing it. And the guys that I coached football with, the Southern job became available, and they said, hey, they talked to me and said, let's go coach football. So, I still taught at Meigs, but I was able to go up there in the last 2 years and coach and had a lot of success. And again, a bunch of great kids, that played football for me there, and it was a great experience. So you just cannot replace that camaraderie and that togetherness that you get with the game of football.
Absolutely. And you guys both learned that firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. One thing I also wanted to ask, I wanted to get your opinion, but I'll also ask you as well. What kind of benefits do you think, whether it's exposure today or more advanced training, what kind of benefits do you think the game of football has today that maybe you guys didn't get the experience with back in those days?
I can speak right off the hand YouTube. When I was a kid, but then again, it might have been a little naive, just in the area that I was growing up. But, I went to my first football camp when I was going into my senior year, and then I went there to West Virginia football camp. Then I went to a Miami of Ohio one-day senior camp, a Toledo one-day senior camp, and that was the first time that I ever seen people using a speed ladder, and doing all these specific cone drills. And you're like, what is that? Like, why didn't I know about this? And YouTube and internet wasn't around. So again, that's the plug back to Gridiron Glory, because that's the first time you could see yourself on TV other than in a film room with your coach, So you're like, oh my gosh, people are seeing me in Meigs County, in Nelsonville. And so, yeah, forgot where I was going.
I think the advancements in technology certainly make it easier with film trading, with film breakdown. Obviously there's so much more about nutrition. There's more known about safety and all those things. And the game has become a little bit more wide open scheme-wise, where they're doing more things that cover the whole field, offensively and defensively. But it still boils back down to the toughness and the blocking and tackling and those basic fundamentals of football.
Yeah,
but the game will continue to evolve, and schemes and those kind of things. And the athletes are at an earlier age now are getting more into the training part of it. So you get kids that are more developed. You're seeing quarterbacks now coming out of high school that like Joe Burrows, for example. Yeah. When he came out of high school, he looked like a kid that was about a junior in college, because he had his father was a coach. Coach Adams does a great job at Athens, and he had the skills also. So you're getting kids like that are more advanced than what they used to be, both mentally and physically. And with that, you continually get growth and a better game of football that goes along with it.
For sure.
Yeah, I think learning how to do things correctly as far as technique, because I think a lot of kids, again, I see it in youth sports, coaching youth sports. Like if you tell a bunch of kids, you say take off running, and you watch all these kids run, so many kids don't really know how to run correctly, and it's about form, and same way with blocking and tackling. There's techniques there that not everybody knows, so to teach those to young kids, it's difficult. And I think that's what you can go. There's classes, there's certifications you can get as coaches now that to learn how to teach kids to do things right, so there's not as many injuries and health and nutrition and weightlifting and what to do and what not to do. There's just so many things out there that we didn't have access to unless a coach showed you, and then you're limited to where were they at and what were they exposed to. You know, so I'd say in the last 20 years, man, the game and the information that's out there for schemes, for formations, for the spread offense, for the wishbone, whatever's out there, there's just thousands and thousands of websites and things out there teaching you those things that were not. Like my first speed ladder after I went to West Virginia football camp was me coming home, taking my father's garden hose and cutting it up and making a speed ladder so I could do these drills because I knew they worked. Because I was like, oh my gosh, these are amazing. Came home, cut a garden hose up, and I used that my whole senior year. You know, so exposure and information, like information is, to an athlete is special if you use it correctly, and it's a technique, and you just can't replace knowing how to do things right. Can't replace that.
Absolutely. Like you said, too, the essentials are still there, you know, but there has been a lot that's changed.
There's the
over
core,
the 20
you know,
years.
Sure,
right.
you know,
Sure.
hard nosed, afraid of nothing. Listen,
There you go.
you take
Work
that and
every
say,
time.
now let me teach you a little extra.
Yeah.
You can make some superior athletes,
Yeah.
elite athletes, I
Yeah.
think would be better to say.
Yeah. So again, kind of looking back, spent a lot of time at Meigs in football in general. What do you think your favorite, if it's not at Meigs, where's your favorite football memory to date?
I'll let you go first.
Favorite football memory to date? It's hard for me to say one. You know, as a team, you know, we won 2 league championships, one in '96 and one in '98, and then we made the playoffs for the first time in 2008. You know, those would certainly rank up there. Got to coach with my brother, you know, for several years. That certainly was special to me. My father scouted, you know, so as far as the family thing that is. But, you know, really it's hard to pick one. It's, you know, so many great kids played football as I, you know, had the opportunity to coach there. And so many great assistant coaches that were loyal and really cared about kids. So those are the things that stick out in my mind when I look back with such a, you know, such fond memories. Those are the memories I think of, is those kids and those assistant coaches that I had an opportunity to work with.
Johnson?
Oh man, I'm like him. There's a lot of, my football career was long, and there's so many.
Your first touchdown, not to interrupt.
Yeah, right. No, I
Right
mean,
behind your brother.
No, I think if there's a memory that comes to mind first, it's Galplis, playing at Galplis my freshman year, my first varsity game I ever got to play in, and ripped off a 61 or 64-yard touchdown.
Wow.
And like you said, you turn around, the first person who smashes is your older brother, who was the center, you know. So that one, I think about that one often, you know. And plus, it was Galplis. It was a huge rival game when we were in school. But then when I was a senior at Belpre my senior year, breaking 6,000 yards, getting to take the football to my mother, you know, and my dad in the stands, that meant a lot. So, you know, I did a lot of things, and very blessed with what I accomplished. But my memories are the things, the 2-a-days leading up against the field house, eating lunch with your buddies and sweating and be like, gee whiz, we got to go out there again. You know, it's 90 today.
I know the feeling.
But those are the things that I remember. You know, the touchdowns behind my brother and playing with my older brother Jason, and then my brother Jeremy was a freshman when I was a junior, so I got to play 2 years with my older brother and 2 years with my younger brother. But just spending the time with just playing football, a game that I loved, just surrounded by coaches and teammates. Those are the memories. I mean, I can tell you all kinds of touchdowns and all things like that, but those are things I remember now, the people that spent time with for 4 years.
Maybe that's why I got out of it, because your youngest brother was on my last football team, and he graduated my last year.
There it
so
is.
There was no more Roush boys to give the ball to. So. That's funny.
A lot of good times. Like I said, then in a day that you know, if there's bad things that happen on the football field today, you hear about it today, but when we played, you didn't. But my freshman year at Waverly, you know, we beat Waverly, upset Waverly. Matt Williams made a interception like on the 1-yard line. But then after that game, our starting safety, Matt Alt, passed away, you know, and, you know, those are things that no one heard about, but then you look back like, my gosh, I can't believe that happened, you know.
Yeah.
And he was such and I know that impacted him a lot, you know, and, you know, but a lot of memories a lot of good memories and, you know, things I fall asleep smiling about,
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, talk a lot about family. You know, I got to play with my younger brother too, and that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The community feel is kind of a lot of what I'm getting from you guys as well.
Yeah.
How do you think that you both benefited from playing in the community that you had grown up in, and that you were, you know, had that affinity for all your life?
It was an honor for me, you know, as a player. My father was a football coach, so like I said, I loved the game. I loved Meigs High School. As soon as and I told these guys all the time, as long as I've loved anything, I've loved Meigs High School and loved Meigs football. So being able to play there and then being able to go back and be the head football coach there was an honor to me. And, you know, I was always proud. We've always had a really good following from our community in football. And many times we would go to other places to play, and our visiting crowd would be bigger than the home crowd. And I was always proud of that, you know, that our fans really followed us, really supported our kids. They were great about doing things, you know, in the community to support Meigs football and make sure our kids knew that they were rooting for them and cared about them. And that feel is, you know, that's just small town America, and I was just honored to be a part of it, really.
Yeah, the first year I ever played football started playing in Syracuse, and I was a member of the Big Bend Youth Football League Browns. And then as I grew from that and met this guy and realized there's a Meigs High School and there's a Meigs varsity football game or Meigs football team, like all I ever wanted to be was Meigs Marauder. All I ever wanted was to put one of those big helmets on that had an M on it in maroon and gold. You know, so loved it. I wouldn't trade where I grew up and where I live now. That's why I moved back, is because I love the area and love everything about it, you know. But as far as community, you know, my parents never asked me to work out. They never pushed me to do anything. It was on my own. You know, they didn't go out here and time me, you know, on the speed ladder. They didn't say like, Justin, did you work out today? It was on my own. But I had this crazy old neighbor. His name's Mike Walker. You know, Mike Walker. Mm-hmm. He would make sure if I was running down the road, he would come out and be like, get your knees up, Roush, you know? And those are things that happen in a small town. You know, if I went out to Meigs High School when I was in college and worked out and there's a baseball game, people would come over and be like, are you working hard? Are you getting everything you need to do? And those are people that care about you. You know, I think there's benefits to a small town, and that's learning that people care about you and people watch you and people want you to be successful. And so, I mean, you can't replace that,
Yeah.
that kind of family atmosphere. And
Yeah.
and so today I drive around and I see Mike Walker, I see Charlie Chancey Sr., and I see all these people that rooted for me. Now they're rooting for me in life. Mm-hmm. You know, are you a good dad? You doing what you need to do? How's your wife? You know, those are things you get in small town America, and I'm so glad for Meigs County.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Amen.
That's something that we've learned through 20 years of Gridiron Glory, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, that's all the time we have.
Okay.
Mike Chancey, Justin Roush, phenomenal representatives of Meigs High School, Ohio University, Southeast Ohio football, and very welcome guests on our show. I don't know if we flashed this to the camera. I don't know if you want to show the award there that you won.
I sure will. 20 years ago, I sat in the studio.
It's a historic year.
Yes, amen.
A little faded, but so am I.
Looks good. We like it authentic. Well, thank you guys both very much.
Thank you.
Again, Mike Chancey, Justin Roush, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.